Lawrence, are we there yet? Almost. Are you sure you know the place? Don't worry, Marianne, we will reach there soon. Are you sure we're safe here? He won't be able to find us? We'll be fine. Marianne, we're starting a new life. Sometimes things like this happen, but we'll get through it together. As Lawrence took down their bags, he heard the door open and could make out his cousin Marcus walk out with his rifle and lantern. Marcus! Lawrence, I got your letter, but you're late. I thought you would be here by afternoon. That was the plan, but I couldn't set off in the morning. I had to set off after midday. Well, I arranged the room for you, but what's the matter? What happened that you had to urgently leave town and come here so far? Marcus suddenly heard a noise from the carriage. He tilted his head, shocked to see a young woman get off. Hello, Marianne. The house is straight ahead. Why don't you head on in? Marianne nodded her head with a smile before she passed the men and headed inside. Marcus quickly turned to Lawrence, widening his eyes. Are you out of your mind? What have you done? Marcus, you know we've always been in love. You shouldn't have done this. This isn't right. What if he finds out you're here? How is he going to find us all the way out here? Lawrence and Marianne had left behind everything in the busy town of Ashka against the will of their families, and traveled far out here, crossing over the small village of Vignola to the secluded area where Lawrence's cousin Marcus lived, because they were in love and wanted to be together. Marcus wasn't too happy about the situation, but he couldn't send the couple away either. He invited them inside and showed them to their room. As they settled down, he called Lawrence out and handed him some milk and tough bread. I didn't think you would be bringing someone, but this is all I have right now. As you can see, my house is far from the village. It's actually easier to hunt here than to go to the market, so tomorrow I'll go hunting and arrange meat. Don't worry about us, we're fine. I'll come with you tomorrow. After a restless sleep for everyone in the house that night, they woke up to a new day and a new beginning. Early in the morning, Marcus stepped out to see Lawrence and Marianne laughing in the backyard. They looked happy together, but he was worried for them. He didn't know where this was going to end. The two men left for their hunt later that morning. Waiting all alone, Marianne soon started to clean up around the house. She found a container of flour, some eggs, and out in the backyard she had seen a pumpkin growing. Perhaps she could make something for supper. It was near sunset when Lawrence and Marcus started planning to return home after they had successfully hunted down a small deer. When they reached the house, they were both overwhelmed by a beautiful aroma in the air. What is that smell, Marianne? I made some pumpkin bread for supper. Is that venison? Wonderful. I'll put some stew on the stove. That night, the three sat round about a table of warm food. Marcus took a bite and let out a deep breath. This tastes delicious. I haven't had food like this in a long time. The second day turned out rather fine, and things were starting to look towards the better. They all went to bed, and it wasn't before long that Marcus had fallen asleep. And soon, Lawrence too, from a long day outside. As Marianne kept pondering about everything she had left back at home, she too thought it was best she just forget and move on. That's why she had chose to do what she did. She closed her eyes and soon dozed off. It was, however, sometime later that night that Marianne woke up feeling a little anxious. She sat up drowsy in her sleep when she suddenly noticed a figure standing to the corner of her room. She rubbed her eyes as it came closer. Horrified by what she saw, it stood there, just a distance away from her, a dagger pierced through its chest as it stared menacingly at her. She frantically shook Lawrence to wake up. "Lawrence! Lawrence!" Lawrence woke up startled to see Marianne's condition. "What's wrong? What happened?" "There's someone here." "No, it was something." Lawrence quickly raised the flame of the lantern on the bedside table, brightening the empty room. "Marianne, there's nothing here. Maybe you saw a bad dream." "I wasn't even asleep." "It's nothing. You've just been worried. Try to rest." Marianne tried to sleep, but she ended up staying awake in fear the rest of the night. Around midday, the next day, both Lawrence and Marcus were home. Marcus took the couple out to his own peach orchard he took care of out here. By the time they got home, Marianne was so tired she thought she would give a better sleep that night. But again around the same time she woke up frightened to her core, seeing that figure walking closer and closer to her. She tried to tell Lawrence, but he couldn't understand what she was talking about. "Marcus, have you ever seen anything like this in this house? A ghost or a spook? Have you ever had strange dreams?" "Lawrence, I've been living here for so long, I've never experienced anything like that. And I've been living alone. This house felt empty before, but now with you two it seems full." Marianne was petrified. She was afraid to sleep, and she was afraid to be alone. But the following day, the meat had finished, and Lawrence and Marcus had to go out hunting again. "Hurry back, okay? We'll be here sooner than you know it." Lawrence had left Marianne quite frightened. He was in a rush to get back home the whole day. When they did finally return, however, they found the house eerily silent. Something wasn't right. Lawrence called for Marianne, but there was no response. He rushed to his room. Horrified to find Marianne laying lifeless on the ground, her neck snapped. "No, no, Marianne!" Lawrence was devastated. He couldn't believe what had happened. There was no sign of anyone breaking in or being in the house. "How did this happen? You said there was nothing here." "I swear, I have no explanation. Nobody lives around here. It's just us. I don't understand. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe she fell down. She was my everything. How am I going to live without her?" "We have to make arrangements for her burial. But Lawrence, try to understand. We shouldn't take her to the village. People might recognize you there. It's better we bury her somewhere nearby ourselves." That night, heavy-hearted, Lawrence and Marcus performed a funeral for Marianne. When they returned home, Lawrence lay all alone in bed, pondering about the last few days he had been with his love. He lost her too soon. As the dreadful night came to pass, Lawrence's eyes started to shut on him. When suddenly, he noticed something shift to the corner of the room. Marianne Murrell was a young woman who lived in the bustling town of Ashka in Hungary. She was beautiful, and at a young age her father chose to wed her off to an influential man in town named Irvin Pearson, even though she was in love with Lawrence. Marianne didn't have a choice but to marry this man, much older than her, practically a stranger to her. But even after her marriage, her love for Lawrence didn't extinct. When Lawrence got news of Marianne's marriage to Irvin Pearson, he was devastated. He couldn't do anything about it. He felt like his world was falling apart. He swore to himself he would never love again. He would never look back to his past. But a few days after the marriage, Lawrence spotted Marianne and Irvin at the market. He couldn't stop looking at the woman he loved. And Marianne, too, spotted him, but she soon had to leave. Lawrence was heartbroken. He couldn't bear seeing the love of his life with someone else. His love for Marianne was stronger than the rage that burnt in him. So he went to the Pearsons' house one evening, and on the right opportunity, when he found Marianne alone in the garden, he threw a note to her in secrecy. Marianne was shocked when she saw a piece of crumpled paper fall before her feet. She looked around, but she couldn't spot anyone. But when she opened the letter, she couldn't help but recognize the handwriting of her beloved. "Meet me at the woods tonight." Marianne had been suffering every passing day since the marriage. She couldn't forget Lawrence, and deep down inside, she wanted to meet him too. So that night, while her husband was asleep, she snuck out to meet Lawrence, knowing exactly where he was waiting for her. "Lawrence." "Marianne, how could you do this?" "I had no choice. I missed you so much. I knew you would come." Marianne and Lawrence started meeting each other in the darkness of the night. But a few nights later, Marianne started to become worried. "Lawrence, we can't keep on meeting like this. This is too risky. If someone finds out, our families will be shamed. And Irvin, he will seek revenge against you, and he won't leave me alive." "Then come with me. We'll leave this town and go far away where no one will know us." Marianne and Lawrence planned to elope the following morning, but Marianne wasn't able to leave the house until Irvin left for work. The lovers left everything behind that afternoon and traveled far, where no one would find them. When Irvin Pearson returned home that evening to find his wife was missing, he was highly concerned. He questioned all his servants, but no one could say anything. "Go look for her." Irvin too went out in search. He knew Marianne spent a lot of time out in the garden. But what Irvin found past the garden, a bit far out into the woods behind his home, enraged him. A love letter. This was a humiliation. His wife had run away with her lover. Irvin immediately sent his men to find and bring her. "Look for her everywhere in this town and in the nearest villages. You must bring her to me." But his men returned later that night, unable to find Marianne. Enraged and in want for revenge, Irvin went out in the middle of the night to a woman in town known by the name Zelda Boswell. Perhaps she could help him. "What brings you here?" "Find my wife and her lover, and I'll reward you with gold." "Very well. Tomorrow night I'll stay at your house. We'll perform the ritual there." Zelda Boswell agreed to help Irvin, and the very next evening she arrived at his residence. "Show me where she used to sleep." Irvin took the woman to their bedroom. Zelda quietly walked around observing everything, pacing around the bed. She turned and said, "I'll sleep on this bed, but you must give me a cloth that belonged to the young woman and seal this room for the night." Irvin gave Zelda a handkerchief of Marianne's and made sure she wasn't disturbed in any way while she stayed there. As night fell, Zelda began her preparations. She had brought along a dagger and a few stones to sharpen it. With time and patience, she swiped a stone along the dagger, making sure it was sharp enough to cut through anything it touched. She then placed the dagger into Marianne's handkerchief and began chanting a spell onto it. After which she put it under Marianne's pillow and laid down for the night, soon falling asleep. Zelda stood up in darkness. As she walked, she could feel a cold chill under her feet. She tried to look around, but there was nothing but a faint whimpering noise in the distance. As her eyes adjusted, she suddenly noticed someone up ahead. The noise became louder and louder until she saw it to be a demon, and in his chest was pierced Zelda's dagger.
"Why have you done this to me? Please let me go. I'm in pain."
"No, not until you find her and get rid of her." When Zelda woke up, it was dawn. She lifted the pillow to see the dagger was gone. Perfect. She then waited until she would have the dream again. And it was soon after 3 nights came to pass that she had another dream.
I've done what you've asked of me. She is no more, but I can't take this dagger out. Bear me from this pain.
No, not until you get rid of the man as well. When Zelda arose from her slumber, she hurried to meet Irvin again. Your wife is taken care of. Now it's time you fulfill your part of the deal. But how can I be sure? Far out in the forest by Vignola, near an orchard, go there, and you will find her resting place. It was sometime in the middle of the night that Marcus woke up hearing Lawrence yell. He immediately grabbed his axe and his lantern and rushed to his room. But he froze upon what he saw. Lawrence was no more. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.